Imagine this. You've achieved success in your field, you live with your wife or husband, you have a growing son whom you love very much, you have friends you meet up with often, and everything is good. And then, after another gathering at a restaurant, you're driving your friends home, talking about nothing in particular, which distracts you from the road, and after the accident, you are sentenced to 16 months in prison. On your very first night in the colony, you witness a gang rape. The next day, when provoked, you attack another prisoner. After that, you get recruited into a prison gang. Eventually, you stab another inmate, your sentence is extended by 9 years, and you become increasingly immersed in a life of crime. I have just recounted the plot of the 2017 movie Shot Caller. Yes, of course, it's a movie, it's artistic fiction, but what part of it is unrealistic? Did any of you think like that's total nonsense, that could never happen? About 6 years ago when I watched the film, I thought about how well it demonstrates that prisons don't fix people. On the contrary, they break them. And now I'm 18, a third-year law student, and every time I hear about the correctional system, I think about that something is wrong here. If I committed something through negligence, but had neither malicious intent nor even the preconditions for it, I'm still being corrected. Though what exactly are we correcting? Like inattentiveness? I mean, okay, the example is a bit of a stretch, but this is exactly what drove me to understand how the prison system broke and continues to break people. But let's first figure out what justice actually is. After all, this word will definitely be heard many times, yet it can be interpreted in very different ways. In Plato's Republic, Cephalus claims that justice consists of speaking the truth and paying one's debts. Polemarchus believes that justice is giving everyone what is due to them, helping friends and harming enemies. And Thrasymachus says justice is the advantage of the stronger, meaning those in power. Socrates reveals the contradiction in each of these definitions, particularly that concepts like what is due and advantage cannot be universal criteria of morality if they do not take into account the true nature of good and evil. Of course, we are not obligated to stick to the opinion of some guy called Socrates, but we have to start somewhere. So he offers a radically different idea of justice. It is structural harmony, both in the soul of the individual and in the social organism. For us, this means that justice in the Socratic sense is incompatible with punitive logic based on repression or retribution. Justice is not achieved through institutionalized violence because such actions only exacerbate internal disharmony, both in the individual soul and in the collective social body. Therefore, a system that appeals to punishment as a means of influence is already unjust. It's not about prevention, it's not about correction, it's about emotion, about the desire of revenge. And this emotion is institutionalized, it is legalized. And here we encounter a paradox. What should be a tool for balance and restoration turns into a mechanism of secondary harm, where the person who committed crime is broken even further, thereby increasing the global amount of evil. This is harm veiled by laws. How many prisoners in jails are people who could have been saved, supported, sometimes even before the offense occurred? How many of them are from poor families without access or quality education, medical care, or psychological support? A crime is not just an act committed by an offender, but also a symptom of deeper structural problems. The idea of correction sounds wonderful, but in practice we don't see it implemented. How can you correct someone through humiliation and violence? Moreover, the system gives a person no chance to change after serving their sentence. Like, reintegration is practically non-existent, which means that even if someone has truly reevaluated their past, they are simply given no resources to start over. A state that claims a humanistic foundation should not punish for the sake of revenge or venting anger, but create conditions for internal transformation. This is not achieved with iron beds, uniforms and daily inspections. This is achieved through trust, through a new social infrastructure where there are mentors, there is an environment that does not wait for your downfall, but believes in your recovery. In fact, many civilized countries have long since taken a step toward so-called restorative justice. In prisons there are no cells with bars, there are rooms with books, kitchens and common spaces. The convict is not locked up. They are taught how to live.
Именно такие условия содержания могут привести к минимизации риска повторных преступлений. И это для меня А и У.
АИУ?
Это по-немецки было. Ну, как это моя такая, как аксиома. Да, такая аксиома. Я знаю, что именно только такие условия содержания, именно только такие условия помощи могут привести к минимизации риска повторных преступлений, и это моя самая главная цель.
And in October 2018, the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe even adopted a recommendation calling for the development and use of restorative justice. In the US, there is the police and prison abolition movement. Activists point out that the criminal justice system there is deeply permeated by racial inequality, a disproportionately large number of people from disadvantaged communities end up in prisons. They believe that the very idea of punishment usually doesn't solve root social problems. Among the famous representatives of the movement is Angela Davis, who criticizes prisons as a continuation of racial and class oppression, and also proposes alternative approaches, working with communities, developing meditation programs, social support, and reintegration of former prisoners.
And although black people make up 13% of the US population, we still account for 40% of the incarcerated population. How do we go about putting a dent in those kinds of stunning numbers?
I think we tended to focus more on the prison system than on the police, because at least there were campaigns against police violence. I can remember in the 70s we held hearings. I was working with an organization called the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, and we held hearings about racist police violence all over the country. So there was some attention, even though it wasn't the kind of attention that the issue has received in the last few years, especially since the emergence of Black Lives Matter, whereas very few people were even thinking about the vast numbers of people who were hidden away in these dungeons.
Prison abolitionists aim to fully disband and disarm the police and prisons, because justice is not about prison, it is about equal starts, about humanity, about a second chance. And if we ever really want to call ourselves a just society, we must start with the least protected, because prisons do not build a safe society. A safe society is built by trust, support and education. Well, to some percentage I really am lefty, judging by the last sentence, but anarcho-capitalism is the best still. So anyway, with this video I wanted to convey that True justice is not in bloody sentences and not in cold cells. It lies in creating conditions where a person has a chance to correct their mistakes and become better rather than being broken. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.
Research on successful drug policy shows that treatment should be increased.